Okay, cool. Next question is, do you feel that the previous colonial powers, that being the Dutch settlers and then the British, have made adequate compensation and restitution for colonialism in this country?
Look, I think that's a conversation that's outside of look, you and I would fundamentally disagree on that. I think Helen Ziller absolutely nailed it.
The reason I'm asking is because, again, you leading the party who's putting your name down on the election ballot. This is important to South Africans, and I'm sure it's a question many people want to know the answer to.
I think Helen Ziller is exactly right in suggesting that colonialism wasn't, if you can forgive the pun, a black or white issue. There were some aspects that were very good. There were some aspects that were very bad. We are where we are, and actually trying to sort of to go back to some arbitrary point in the past would be nonsensical. So I think it's a pointless thing. I think the best solution for South Africa is to create a future for everybody, not to argue about the past for everybody. I think most of us can agree that we need people living in decent houses, having jobs, out of poverty, living in a place that's crime-free, that they're not in fear of their lives. That's what I want to fight for, and I'm certainly not going to get blagged into this sort of what I think is this silly left-wing politics.
Look, if you don't want to answer the question, you've made it clear that you don't want to answer, so that's okay. So the reason I'm asking that question is because maybe you don't think it's important, but to many South Africans, particularly people in the Cape who have experienced vast amounts of violence under colonialism and have had no restitution for that, and you leading the party who wants to head up the Western Cape, if you don't think it's important to answer, that's completely fine. That's okay for you. And then also to say that there are positive aspects to colonialism. You're saying it's not black and white. It was good and bad. That's fine. I just like that people are getting to hear that about you as well. So what I've surmised is that you don't feel that they need, or you don't want to answer the question about restitution. Even though the British and the Dutch have largely benefited and continue to benefit from colonialism in this country, you want to move forward without looking back, whilst people in this country are still divided along apartheid racial lines, along apartheid spatial planning. Do you have any thoughts on expropriation without compensation?
Well, of course, it would be absolutely disastrous for South Africa and leave everybody fundamentally poorer. We should avoid it at all costs.
Okay, that's fine. Any thoughts on redress, such as black economic empowerment?
Absolutely terrible idea, and we how do we know that? Because we've had it for 30 years, and it's left people worse off, not better off. What I think we need to do is, I absolutely think we have to create a much fairer society, but that isn't going to be done by BEE or affirmative action, and we know that because we've tried it. It's been a disaster. What we need to do is build a vibrant economic environment that basically uplifts people, gives them opportunity, gives them work, and moves everybody forward. And we can look forward, and we can see in another 30 years' time that people have actually been lifted out of poverty. What you're proposing, and I know obviously your politics. Yeah, it's been a disaster everywhere in the world. It's always going to fail. It has failed in South Africa. You should just accept the reality of what's in front of you rather than denying the obvious facts.
So what I'm getting from you is that you've been a moderately successful entrepreneur. You've got no tertiary qualifications. You've got no experience in politics, but you've made statements and positions on history. You've made statements and position on socioeconomic facts. And you've also chosen a statement and a position based on a history of people whose country you don't come from. So I think I didn't actually care for what you had to say. I just think it's important that everybody here, all 100 of them, understand your thought process, understand the context, and understand how ill-equipped you are to lead any kind of party that would govern even a passageway, let alone a province. Thanks, Phil.